There we go. Now we're
starting the recording, my lord.
Recording.
Hey, you think you're gonna have a good episode this time, Ron?
I think it's actually gonna be quite trash.
You are now listening to the Geeky Robots podcast.
Great Scott.
Alright, we're recording.
We're back.
We're back. What happened? We took a break.
We took a break.
We didn't take a break. We took a retirement.
Well, first of all, this is what really happened. Can we tell the people what really happened?
I was gone.
You got lost, finding out where the Rushmore was.
Mount Rushmore.
And we luckily bought you that satellite phone, and we're able to GPS track you.
Yeah, it rings like the satellite phone in Jurassic Park 3. It's got stuck inside the belly of a Spinosaurus.
Kudos to you to bending that pack of wolves to your will. That was actually really impressive.
They accepted me as one of their own.
I saw that. Now, is there a lot of nutrition in wolf's milk?
I wouldn't know.
Did you breastfeed them?
Because how we found you was a little questionable, to say the least.
Just know that you can milk anything with nipples.
Aha. I have nipples.
That being said, welcome back, guys.
What's up?
We're
Good.
here in the Geeky Robots studio, and you are listening to our podcast.
AKA my dining room.
Yeah. Studio.
Donate if you want us to have a better studio.
You could find us on Instagram, Twitter, and GoFundMe.
Yeah.
All right, so this is Media Mike. I'm back here with Riot,
Good dude.
Maui,
Yo, what up?
and last but not least, Brenton.
Hoo-da-hoo.
90s?
Yeah.
Wait, doesn't somebody say hi-ho? Isn't that the poop from...
Yeah, Mr. Hanky.
That's Mr. Hanky, but I was doing the old,
Is that
no.
what it says?
Hoo-da-hoo.
Hoo-da-hoo. There you go.
Hoo-da-hoo is what they used to yell in the 90s when the cops were coming down the street, like, hoo-da-hoo, and then you would all, like, the drug dealers would run away. Yeah.
I like that.
So, we are going to specifically be talking about Spider-Man Far From Home. It's been out for a couple of weeks now. Just remember that you can follow us on any of social media platforms at the Geeky Robots. You can visit our store. We have a lot of cool stuff. Let's go into Actually, before that, can I just talk a little bit to you guys about movie etiquette?
Yeah, go
whoa.
ahead. Something bothered you.
A lot of things bothered me. Okay, this guy was sitting right next to me. I mean, he was so distracting throughout the movie. And I'm all for you enjoying the movie, however you enjoy the movie, as long as it doesn't interfere with my enjoyment.
What was he doing?
Okay, so he was making loud predictions as to what was going to happen
Oh.
next. He also would sigh really loudly throughout the movie. Like I guess maybe he would take too long to breathe, but he'd be like...
What, was this man overweight?
It was not.
Oh, then it's not sleep apnea. Maybe,
But he was sighing really loudly in the quiet parts of the movie.
No, what I hate is when you take 15 minutes to open up your wrapper.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I just want to like take it and bite the top off and hand it back to the person.
Here's another etiquette question for you, because I may be wrong on this. When is it okay to put your cell phones down and stop talking to the person to your left? Is it after the movie starts or when the previews start?
After the movie starts.
Yeah.
So it's okay doing this during the previews?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
it's still.
It's not the main event.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's optional how some people take. I take trailers seriously. Like once the trailers start, I'm late for the movie. In my opinion, because I like the trailers, but
Yeah.
I also accept the fact that not everyone sees it that way.
You ever take somebody to the movie that you just regret taking them? I hate during the movie, we're both watching the same movie, and they're like, who's that? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm watching the same movie.
They take out their phone, look up IMDb. I know him from somewhere.
Yeah.
Who's
Oh
the guy
my-
from Riverdale?
Yeah. No, seriously. Or like,
You know who you are.
that annoys the heck out of me. I can't take that. Or if they've seen the movie before and they're like, watch this.
I hate to watch
Oh,
this.
no, yeah.
Dude, thank you. I was watching The Roof. You wouldn't have told me to watch this.
I probably would have missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love this part. Thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Did this ruin the Spider-Man experience for
Didn't
you?
completely ruin it, but for the first half of the movie, I was a little like...
Well, the first half of the movie.
I was more so paying attention to this guy than to Peter Parker's romantic comedy.
Yeah, it was. It was, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right. So the etiquette rant is over. Overall impressions. What did you think of the movie?
Oh, I love the movie.
I thought it was really good. Overall impression. I mean, I could go deeper into it, but yeah, no, I really liked it. I thought it was pretty solid. It was a solid MCU film.
Definitely better than Homecoming. Homecoming kind of landed in the low tier of the Marvel movies for me. I was not impressed with it. This one, I think, was a step forward in the right direction of where it was supposed to go, of what Spider-Man is, who Peter Parker is. It made me like Tom Holland more, because I really didn't like Tom Holland, and I know that a lot of people do, a lot of people love him, but this movie made me like him a lot more.
This movie is the first MCU movie after the Ultimate Stakes.
Yes.
That was Avengers Endgame. Not that it was trying to reach that level, because it was never going to, and I'm glad they didn't try to make it a world-ending, cataclysmic event that only Spider-Man is capable of stopping, because that would have fallen a little short. Nobody would have bought those stakes. They did them a little bigger than Homecoming.
Yeah.
And I think it was the proper step up from Homecoming. So if we're going to continue to step up to progress Spider-Man to the point of being the leader of the next big team, whether it's the Avengers or another team that comes out, maybe he joins the X-Men, who knows? When he's the leader of that, we'll have seen the progression so it's organic into it.
I like the progression as well. So Spider-Man's the only person they're doing this with. Everybody else, Captain America, Iron Man, they all get thrown into these somebody's going to destroy the world situations. Homecoming was his neighborhood. They're grooming Spider-Man. Iron Man groomed Spider-Man. Now Nick Fury, Skrull version of Nick Fury, grooms Spider-Man. And they're literally, you're watching the progression of a hero. That's the only person you're getting, and that's why I like this movie so much. It was a next step up. The progression was great, as well as Mysterio just being on point.
Now, this whole movie was about Tony Stark's legacy.
Yes.
This whole movie, from the villains to Peter Parker's motivation, the whole plot to the end with the end credit scene, which we'll get into later. This was all about Tony Stark and who's going to step up next.
Yeah, I think it's a great next step, and Tom Holland famously spoiled the fact over a year ago that this movie would take place minutes after Endgame. And that's exactly how it felt. That's exactly what happened. Even in the beginning where you have, where they're kind of showcasing or connecting one movie with the other. What was it, the morning announcements that they were doing?
Mm-hmm. That was hilarious.
Which was great.
Yeah. It was so high school cringeworthy.
Yeah, it was so awkward, but it was great.
Because I was actually in the high school broadcast. So I know exactly how that is and how cringy the effects are when you're switching from one thing to another.
And the boom mic kept coming down over them into the shot. But I like how they used that to give us the entire exposition. We saw that touching tribute at the beginning with I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston. So cringely done.
But you know what's really great about that? Like, it's hilarious, but what's great about that is that I think we all felt like this super heavy weight of emotion after Endgame, that it just made perfect sense to just continue on into the Spider-Man movie with something that was light and funny, but also establishing the fact that yes, Scarlett Johansson is dead, or Black Widow. Yes, Iron Man is dead. Now we need to move forward.
Why'd you kill Scarlett Johansson?
Yeah, Black Widow is alive. Scarlett Johansson is dead. No, I'm just kidding. You know what I mean?
Yeah. She's dead to us because she's not Black Widow anymore.
Is she?
She's dead to a lot of people with some of the comments she's made recently. But anyway, go ahead.
The other thing is the fact that it felt just so real. Like the announcements and everything. Like that feels like something that if I was in high school, someone would have put together.
And you wouldn't have paid attention to?
Yeah, you would have paid attention to. And a teacher would have been like, oh, this is beautiful, honey. Yeah, we're going to put it in the morning announcements. And then you put it up.
And you're using that time to finish your homework you didn't do last night.
Yeah.
Something really interesting is they use the term blip.
Yes.
As opposed to the snap, the snappening.
Mm-hmm. That's two different things.
So Kevin Feige kind of clarified recently.
Yeah, he said that the snap was when everybody disappeared, and the blip is when they returned.
So I have a question about this that I think everyone's going to be scratching their heads about. You ready? Okay, listen. Everyone apparently, especially from the morning announcements that we got, that they compiled all of the data, appeared exactly where they were, right? Mm-hmm. So you disappeared for 5 years, and let's just say you were playing basketball in the gym, right? Mm-hmm. You disappeared for 5 years, and then...
You came back?
What if you were on a plane?
That's actually pretty.
5 years later, and now
Your body falls from the sky.
You come back and you're like, I'm alive. And you're falling from like 50,000 feet in the air.
If it's positional geographically, you're dead. But if you go to the last structure you were in, then you're fine.
Imagine dying.
But I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah, I think it's best not to think too much about it.
But I thought it was so hilarious, that scene where the teacher is with Spider-Man in the airplane, and he's like, oh, well, let me tell you about what happened to my wife when she got blipped. Or when the blip happened, she faked her death, and then she ran away with some guy, and this and that, or whatever.
That was amazing.
I just thought it was so funny that basically, I guess the people at Marvel, they're like, you know what, the blip was so serious, but let's find a comical way to explain the world of what happened, you know, in between that time, all those 5 years. So I thought that was great.
And you like to think of all the possible scenarios with something like that, and one of the things you don't think about is the people that try to take advantage of that. The movie itself, but especially the first half of the movie, played out like a teen rom-com. It kind of plays into Peter Parker just trying to balance his normal life, which we've talked about before, with being Spider-Man and what he wants versus what he has to do. But did that fall flat in your eyes?
No, it didn't fall flat for me. Spider-Man, again, is not the kind of person who's always just been like, you're going to see him, the movie's going to open up on a secret mission like it did with like Civil War or anything. That's never going to happen for Spider-Man, especially at this age. He's a kid that's just doing things and he happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I like Tom Holland more now, like Riot said, because we got to see more of him. And he really is, in my opinion, probably one of the best choices they could have had. Not maybe the best Spider-Man. You know, everybody has different opinions on that, but he is, for this age group that they were going for, probably the best. So, no, I enjoyed it. I think it set everything up.
I think also another thing that was very interesting, and it did divide a lot of people. A lot of people just said, oh, the first half of the movie was really boring. It was just going on really long. But again, it puts you into the position of Peter Parker being this young teenager who is going through this life, and he just really wants to grow. And really that's going to be... That theme runs throughout the movie and ends up weighing on him and destroying it. It has its disadvantages of being irresponsible.
One thing that was really interesting right off the bat is the contrast between how eager Peter was to be a superhero and to be part of the Avengers. Remember in Civil War, he wanted to keep fighting. Tony had to tell him, you're done, kid, go back home. In Infinity War, he was eager to help, to jump on that ship, even though Tony told him to go back home. And just a short while later, he's now reluctant. He doesn't really want to do this. He's ghosting Nick Fury, who wants him for a mission. So what changed?
He lost his father figure. He was trying to impress Tony. He wanted Tony to like him. He wanted
motivation.
I think that was it. You know, he every time he says, he's like, Mr. Stark, you see this? Look what I'm doing. You know, like he just wanted to be buddies with Tony Stark. Like, how many kids can say that, you know? So once Tony died, then that motivation to impress him was gone.
So it kind of showed that immaturity versus him growing up, because now he had to do it. Now he really had no choice. It wasn't to impress anyone or to prove anything to anyone, which was what Homecoming was about. He needed to prove to Tony that he can take down the big guys.
Correct.
He can be part of the Avengers. And in this one, there's nobody to prove it to.
But that's what he needs. He's never going to be his own hero if he's doing it for Tony, you know. Spider-Man is always been the guy that, man, I want to go have dinner with MJ, but there's this robbery going on, you know. And if he's always just waiting to do big things so Tony will recognize him, he's never going to do the right things, even though it's small.
One of the things that I still have a problem with in this rendition of Spider-Man, it's not a massive deal, but it's something I just don't entirely agree with, is the fact that he's living under Tony Stark's shadow. And I don't like this whole thing. I mean, we all have different opinions on it, but I don't like this whole thing of him being Iron Man Jr. Like, that still bothers me, because I think Spider-Man is his own person and he should be his own person. But I respect the fact that they're taking a different route. But I will say, like, in line with what you guys said, one of the things about Homecoming that I didn't like was, again, that he felt more like Spider-Boy. But what I liked about Far From Home was, in contrast to that, now that Tony Stark has died, I feel like this movie has a theme of not everything is what it seems, especially with the Mysterio character, the villain. I think he had to learn for himself that he can't trust everybody. Not everybody is good. Not everybody is like Tony Stark. And I think he finally had to grow up a little bit after dealing with Mysterio. And I kind of saw a little bit of that in this movie, that now he's slowly becoming not Spider-Boy, but Spider-Man.
And I do appreciate that, and I think that that's hugely due to Kevin Feige's direction with all of this, and that I hope Sony keeps it up, is the fact that these characters need to be nurtured and they need to be treated as humans. You can't just throw someone and be like, oh, this is this character, go. Peter Parker and Spider-Man developed as a character throughout these two movies, their two main movies, and the Avengers. He developed as a character, so Peter Parker developed his personality and Spider-Man developed his powers. He became more attuned to who he is and more used to his powers. And I hope we see more of that and that progression, and that it's natural.
And then natural progression should be the stakes should get higher. In coming movies, we should eventually, hopefully, we'll have Sinister Six or something like that.
The other thing that I thought of was the Peter tingle. They're slowly bringing into the fold the Spidey sense.
I like
But
that.
why are they waiting on that?
Because it's so OP. The spider sense is so OP, and guess what? Carnage and Venom, if it's comic accurate,
They can go.
he cannot
sense them, yeah.
So I want them to develop and build the Spidey sense, and then him face Venom and Carnage and be like, wait a second, this doesn't work. Because right now, if it doesn't work, there's no wait because it wasn't working before.
Don't you like it in anime stories where the character doesn't know all his moves or powers at the beginning, and he kind of unlocks certain powers as he goes on?
Yeah. Over
That's
time,
what he's doing. Over time. Now it's like, it's just a little tingle that I get. It's just like something's happening, you know? So Aunt May's like, it's your Peter tingle or whatever. But we're going to see how that develops over time, and eventually it's going to be the famous Spidey sense that he's going to be able to detect the danger.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't get it. Like, the sequence was really cool.
Amazing.
How it was really cool, but like in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, you know that when he was about to get his spider sense, because things would shake.
Yeah, I would do the boom.
You knew, like the audience knew something was about to happen. In this movie, I didn't really understand that that's what was happening until we were already like a couple seconds into the sequence.
That makes sense. There was no. I mean, he kind of just like closed his eyes and like. But there wasn't any, like, you didn't see his hair go up on his arm. Or anything.
Yeah, it almost felt like the Force. Like, let me attune myself to the Force so I can punch these things. And I see that, yeah. But I did like that whole sequence.
That whole scene was amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was going to, like, use his Spidey sense to just punch him out of the air and see where they were.
Right. Question for you. What did you think of the suits? The two new suits that we saw, the stealth suit given to him by S.H.I.E.L.D. and the one he designed himself that was red and black, kind of the Deadpool suit. That's what I call it.
Deadpool suit. I think it was great. I really liked the sequence of him building the suit. I agree with Maui about the not wanting to have like an Iron Man Jr. I don't like that idea either, because Spider-Man has so much lore and history. He doesn't need to piggyback off of Iron Man. What I did like, because it showcased Peter Parker's intelligence, was him building the suit and putting all the different things and the verbiage that they use that's probably not even accurate, but whatever. He's just like, and put this and excel this, raise this 50%. Like that I liked, because something that is a lot of times overlooked is the fact that Peter Parker's a genius. He's really smart and he's a scientist himself. So the fact that they can show that, even if it's for 30 seconds, makes me happy.
I have a very pointed question for Brenton. What did you think of Flash?
Oh, God.
Did he grow on you? So he didn't grow on you a little bit after?
I think I went from loathing to indifference. Okay. So if you want to call that progress, sure.
Maui. Wouldn't be a Spider-Man movie without seeing a sequence of him swinging through the city through famous New York City landmarks. And at the end, we got that fan service. And this time he did it with MJ on him. What do you think of that dynamic?
I thought it was really cool. I thought it was cool this time how you see Spider-Man, in the other Spider-Man movies, you see him swinging with Mary Jane Watson and she's loving it. But in this one, MJ's like, oh my God, this is so scary. And then when he finally brings her down, she's like, let's not ever do that again. I like seeing that she was terrified of actually swinging in the air, which was different. And I I really did not like MJ in the first movie at all. I thought she was a big, you know what? No, I didn't like her attitude. And I was still used to the fact that MJ's supposed to be a redhead, a supermodel. She's supposed to be Caucasian. I am not racist by any means, but this is just what I was used to.
Now we'll talk about The Little Mermaid. As our resident expert in romantic comedies, because none of us know what the heck we're talking about there. What do you think?
Speak for yourself.
10 Things I Hate About You.
Notebook on the weekends?
Hey, P.S. I Love You is a great movie. I'm sorry. Anyways.
No, but I didn't like her in the first movie, but in the second movie, in this movie, I think they toned down the emo part of me, MJ.
Really?
Wait, well, let me clarify. They toned that down a little bit, and I feel like you kind of got to understand why she was the way that she was. And now I finally understand, okay, her name is MJ, but they're doing a different rendition of MJ where she's like awkward and she's weird and she has, she likes weird things, and that's why Peter actually really likes her, because she is so different. So I actually found it kind of cute and refreshing. It's like a different type of love story in the entire MCU. Way different than Tony Stark and Pepper Potts. Way different than anybody else. I really like their dynamic so far.
I feel like they introduced this girl that more women can relate to, that she's kind of like awkward, like you said. But she's sort of showing her vulnerabilities more to Peter now that they're having this love dynamic, where she's kind of showing her soft side. Even when she was like, "Are you calling me pretty? Am I an object?" And he was like, and then she was like, "I'm kidding. Like, thank you for the compliment. You look pretty too." So she's lowering her defenses. So maybe it's like they're showing the fact that she has to always have these defenses raised in this society, in this time. Yet with Peter, he's a good guy. She can lower her defenses, and she actually develops confidence, and she develops a different personality where she's like the MJ we know.
So a character that was groundbreaking here that we haven't seen, and I know Riot's a huge fan of his comic book counterpart. We got introduced to Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio. So Riot, just gonna throw it to you. Talk about Jake G's performance. Talk about the look of the costume. Talk about his powers, which weren't really explained at all. They were kind of weird, and it looked like at one point he just like ran on fart power. It
did. He's like, "See you later."
He just had really bad gas.
Yeah.
He has buttholes on his wrist.
It did look like that. It could have been a slightly less green. Gray smoke would have worked too. Like, come on.
Let's just say it smelled like...
He looked like a bad guy from Shrek.
Shrek's evil older brother.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the same as the character from the comics, who was an actor seeking glory, but I think it works better in 2019.
Yeah, it worked great. The stakes and the personality, I think the core fundamentals of who Mysterio is, they preserved, and they were able to interpret it from a comic rendition of him into a movie rendition in an amazing way. The suit was amazing, down to like the patterns of the suit, and then the modernization of like the chest piece was amazing. Because if you detail it, a lot of the parts were still preserved from the comics, down to the fishbowl. I know they already showed it in the trailers, but in the first teaser, people were scared that they weren't gonna have the fishbowl. I like the fact that they integrated like this CGI and this hologram technology, and the fact that he was always like Iron Man, like Tony Stark's technology, and he stood in his shadow. So that helped build the villainous side of him. But down to the personality traits of him even directing all of this, and him being like an effects artist, where he stood there and he's like, increase the damage 100%, so that everything could be exactly the way he wanted it to be. That's very similar to the comics, that this is all just a show for him.
I did like that they took a guy that was a magician and made him into a special effects artist. But what I thought was genius, it was that all the people that were afterthoughts that were in Tony Stark's life from way before, that you didn't even think about. Like, what's his name? Who's the bad guy from Iron Man 1?
Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges. I don't know. I forget his real name, but he yells at that one guy. Tony Stark made this in a cave, and that guy's helping now Mysterio. I thought that was genius because I would have never thought of those people ever again. They were just parts of a scene.
It also shows how the cavalier attitude that Tony Stark had did affect people in his company. And when he suddenly, from one day to the next, decided not to make weapons anymore, well, what happened to all those people that were dedicating their entire lives to making these cutting-edge weapons for him? Now they're without a job, or now their life's work means nothing when that's going on.
I'm not gonna lie. I kind of started getting upset during the movie because I was like, oh, they made Mysterio a good guy. Who's gonna be the bad guy? Like, they even tricked me. Like, I was like, this is too far into the movie. He hasn't given us his evil plot yet. I thought they were really gonna make him a good guy.
And I like how they revealed his master plan. They revealed that he is in fact a villain before they did the final fight, because then we get to see in that final fight how he was doing what he was doing. And it was really cool to see with all those drones, which led me to be worried, because then I said, oh no, now we're going to see a final fight scene of Spider-Man versus a bunch of drones. This is going to feel like Superman going up against Lex Luthor. It's going to fall flat, and it didn't. It was a really nice final fight scene where we saw some great sequences and action pieces where we see Peter individually targeting the drones and taking them out in very unique and innovative ways.
By the way, guys, no multiverse. Everyone thought there was gonna be a multiverse. That was a massive rumor. That was a massive rumor that we saw in the trailer, and everybody was like, "Oh, there's gonna be a multiverse, and Mysterio's from another world, and this and that. Maybe Tony Stark is actually alive in another world." There will be no multiverse.
That hurts me on a molecular level.
She's right though. I was a little let down by that, but I get it. They're not taking the cheap way out.
That leads me to the biggest twist. It wasn't Mysterio. J.K. Simmons' triumphant return.
Oh, so great.
God bless that man.
Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, the whole theater was like, what? Yeah, I was like that. Well, maybe just me.
Since I saw it yesterday, 2 weeks after the movie came out.
No,
the guy sighed really loud in front of you. He was like...
I was the only one freaking out. Everyone was like, who's that bald guy? I'm like, ah. So he comes out. He has a news network instead of a newspaper, because we're kind of in 2019 now. And he turns the world against Spider-Man with the doctored footage sent by Quentin Beck before his death or after his death or whatever. And they reveal Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Identity revealed. What's next?
Tom Holland probably couldn't keep it a secret, so it was a matter of time. Peter Parker, this rendition of Peter Parker, I mean, just look in 2 movies, the main core characters, Aunt May figured it caught him, his best friend caught him, and he told MJ. In my head, I'm like, okay, where are they going to go with this?
Yeah.
Like, how can he redeem himself? How can he hide his identity? Multiverse.
Multiverse. Unless they do, well, there is the Spider-Man Madam Web timeline, but I think that's a little too fantastical.
It's a little complicated.
I mean, like
It's a
Doctor
little
Strange.
Sony now retains the right.
Oh, that angers me so much.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's done. I mean, truth be told, the Avengers is probably going to be shifted entirely. Going to get an entirely new cast. Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, maybe the Guardians. Those are the people who are going to be your next Avengers, along with the slew of new properties that they introduce. Spider-Man has his own universe. I do genuinely believe, or I hope, that there is some kind of good relationship between these 2 companies, and they can still continue to team up afterwards. But truth be told, Spider-Man developing on his own, if Sony continues... Sony had a great year last year. Like, I applaud them.
Yeah, but they had it under the Marvel umbrella.
No, not the PS4 game was amazing.
Marvel didn't have any involvement with that?
Nope. Marvel had no. They don't. There's no involvement between MCU, the movie production company, and the video game company. Insomniac did it.
Yeah.
Sony did do a great job with Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse, Venom. So they had a lot of home runs last year that I can see where their confidence is building. I hope it doesn't sabotage themselves.
Yeah.
They can swallow their pride and learn from the good things they did last year and the mistakes they've done for so many years and build on that.
Hopefully they've learned enough from the masters, so to speak, at Marvel that they can now incorporate it in this is good storytelling.
Yeah.
this is what people are interested in.
And a lot of the people who ended up pulling the strings last year with the stuff actually was the Sony team outside of Amy Pascal. And Amy actually last year was her last year. That's
All right, so the one that was in charge of all
the other stuff up to now,
yeah.
the Kaka,
Yeah.
that was Amy Pascal,
Yeah.
and her she's pretty much done with Sony after this. She's actually going to Universal.
Oh,
Yeah.
happy for them.
Wonder what she'll ruin over there.
Hey, thanks for listening, everyone. Let's finish this off with a Mount Rushmore. Because I spent a lot of time in the Dakotas.
Mount Rushmore.
I was in North Dakota for a while. I was in South Dakota, enjoyed the sights. Went to West Dakota for a little bit.
There's no West Dakota.
I'm so great they did West
There isn't a West Dakota.
Where was I?
Like Utah? I have no idea.
Utah. Best Spider-Man movie.
Oh, okay. Best Spider-Man movies.
Ah, there's only so many combinations.
Yeah,
there's
there's
four
only-
of us.
But so just
Can
pick
we
the
make
best
it a
four?
collaborative effort
That's what
between us four?
That's the whole point.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Into
I
the
thought it
Spider-Verse.
was-
Yeah.
All right, so Into the Spider-Verse is on there.
Yeah. he's my
Spider-Man
most
2.
Okay,
yeah.
with Doc Ock.
Yeah,
is on there.
yeah, it's an excellent movie.
Far From Home.
I think Far From Home should be on there.
For me, it's the first two Spider-Man Sam Raimi movies,
Uh-huh.
Into the Spider-Verse and Far From Home.
I think that's a perfect
Yeah.
Rushmore.
I think we all
Yeah,
agree with that.
I think we all agree with that. Wait, dang, so no love for Andrew Garfield?
I like.
They were
Andrew
good,
Garfield,
but
I
they
like
weren't
movies.
as good as these ones.
It's true. It's true.
We have been the Geeky Robots. We're happy to be back, and we'll see you guys next time.
Peace out.
Sayonara.